Them sell we out, where them do it for.
Andrew Alaya don't know see it, sir.
Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery.
None but ourselves shall free our mind. Be that in mind.
All doubt, all disappointment, all iniquity spell that form against our children and our brothers and sisters in our low places. Go before us at this moment, King Emmanuel. Do for us what we can't do for ourselves. Remove all burdens, remove all pain, remove all shackles, remove all chain. Set our brothers and sisters free at this time. Oh, Most High King Selassie, Jah, Rastafari. Give thanks to the rising of the sun and to the
People production.
Vlog and the go, me a vlog and the go. I have some information for you to know. Blessed love and greetings all of my viewers and subscribers, my kings and queens, my lion and my lioness. I hope all is blessed, and as usual, I hope this visual finds you all in the best of health. You know your health is your wealth. Right now, my viewers and subscribers, we have the first case against lawsuit against the mandatory vaccine. Yes, someone was almost wrongly dismissed. They haven't been dismissed from their job yet, but they filed a lawsuit against the employer. Yeah, man, I done with the lawyer, Anna Garner from New Mexico, you see me? Yeah, and this is all courtesy. I got it from activistpost.com, you know what I mean? Shout out to Scoras, you know what I mean? He's the activist, and I got it off his website, so you can go check it out, my viewers and subscribers. Activistpost.com. So you can watch it, and all who are in fear and feel like so I don't have to take the vaccine because I found a job. Yeah, so watch what I go on and enjoy and subscribe and click the bell, and the link will be provided in the description also. Zine for activistpost.com, yeah, and the link for Anna Garner, the attorney at law in New Mexico. So watch what I go on.
Welcome everyone, I'm Spiro with activistpost.com. There's been a lot of talk about the COVID vaccine, 24/7 news coverage, and multi-million-dollar advertising campaigns. And still, there is a lot of unanswered questions, like, will I be permitted to travel or work without receiving the vaccine? Well, the very first legal case against mandatory COVID vaccination in the workplace has just surfaced. And joining me today is Anna Garner, the attorney who filed the lawsuit on behalf of her client. Anna, thank you for being my guest today.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here, Spiro.
Now, Anna, you are an attorney with 40 years experience with several high-profile cases under your belt, and you are representing the plaintiff in this case against an employer who has mandated the COVID vaccine for its employees. Now, just to be clear, I'm not a legal expert, I'm not an attorney, and I don't have a bachelor's in anything. You have a bachelor's of science in biology. Now, at this point, as a regular person, for myself, this is a big case to me. I would imagine that the outcome of this case would not only have a direct impact on your client, but this case could potentially set a legal precedent which could affect millions of people. Now, am I reading too much into this, or how high are the stakes here?
The stakes are extremely high, and we're prepared to go as far and fight as hard as we can to make sure that we reach the top level of the judicial system. We want to go to the Supreme Court with this. But what's at stake here are our medical freedoms, our liberties, bodily integrity, our right to choose to refuse any sort of medical intervention. This is a critical issue. We are not human guinea pigs, nor should we be treated that way. And that's what's happening.
Now, Anna, if you could, please tell us the story behind the lawsuit. Who is involved? What are the circumstances that led up to this potential landmark case? How did we get here?
Well, we run an organization called New Mexico Stands Up, nmstandsup.org. And through our organization, we're affiliated with other organizations in New Mexico. And in the southern part of New Mexico, one of the organizations had gotten information that the first responders were now being mandated to all have the experimental COVID-19 injection. That included the firefighters, the police, sheriff's department, correctional detention centers, EMTs, and I think I've covered all of them. When we got that notification, we immediately jumped into action and we sent a cease and desist letter to the county manager, Fernando Macias. They ignored us, And about a week to 10 days later, we sent another letter of notice of impending litigation because we heard that the employees were being coerced under threat of losing their employment. So by the time we filed our lawsuit, some of the people who indicated earlier that they would have considered being plaintiffs had already submitted to the injection, and that just devastated me. But we did have one very courageous young correctional officer, Isaac Legarata, and he is standing in as a plaintiff, and we're really happy to represent him in this. So our criteria were that we would represent anyone who stood their ground and refused to take it. We would not represent them once they had taken it, because at that point it's a moot point for them. They would lack standing. So we had to find someone who would not succumb to the pressure. And Mr. Legareta, 23-year-old former Marine and a correctional officer, stood his ground.
And I'm sure people can imagine that is a very difficult place to be in, especially if you're the breadwinner, if you have a family, and you are having to make this very difficult decision if you choose not to do it, like you said, under the threat of coercion. Now, I had seen your client had filed a request last week. What can you tell us about that, and what is the current status of the lawsuit itself?
We filed an application for temporary restraining order to prevent the county manager or anyone working under him or any of the supervisors at the detention center from threatening Isaac with the loss of his employment or in any way trying to put additional pressure on him. As you know from reading the lawsuit, he was subjected to a coaching and counseling session, which is, to me, another form of subtle pressure or not so subtle pressure to rethink his position, and rethink his position on not following a directive of a supervisor. A correctional officer is in a sort of quasi-military sort of setting, and they are bound to follow their supervisors or it's insubordination. But this is a case where the supervisor is just dead wrong. They absolutely don't have the right to force anyone to take an experimental medical product. The judge did deny our temporary restraining order, but did set a schedule for briefing for the preliminary injunction. So it'll require some briefing, and we're hopeful that we can either negotiate a resolution of this, or when we go to present it to the court, that we will win that part of it. So far, no one has pressured him or fired him. No one has terminated his employment. So we think that they're perhaps not going to do that while the lawsuit is pending. Our ultimate outcome is to get a declaratory judgment action, a declaratory judgment from the court, saying that the federal law concerning emergency use authorization is superior to any mandate or law that could be passed in the state.
What is your legal argument for your client against this mandatory vaccination in the workplace in light of this EEOC position?
Well, we now have two federal statutes conflicting with one another. So there's going to have to be a resolution of this. If one just looks at the reasons behind why under an approval of any medical product under an emergency use authorization must be consented to, and the recipient must be fully informed. If we look at the reasons behind that, it's because it's experimental. And if it's experimental, you're now experimenting on humans when you force them to have this. This is against the Nuremberg Code, which I understand has been adopted by the United States and is incorporated into certain statutes. I'm not an expert on this by any means, but this is what I found in brief research. It's also a crime against humanity. And that's the significant thing here. This is a crime against humanity for these organizations and counties, and now even the Department of Defense trying to get all of our military vaccinated. They're trying to force them, but there's a fine line they're trying to walk as well. But they're certainly misrepresenting the facts around this injectable. And that is, they're misrepresenting that it's safe, that it has been tested. That's not true. You can't even produce an effective vaccine in the number of months that this one has just been rolled out so quickly. And as we know, there are several types of these injectables coming out. We have the mRNA technology, And we have other types of technology.
Well, you're absolutely right, based on my research as well, and the mRNA technology is new in this field. Like, it has not been used, to my understanding, in vaccinations or injectables in the past.
We have done a search, and to our knowledge, we're the first one in the country to have even challenged any mandate that would coerce or require or put any sort of duress on anyone to take an experimental product.
Well, that's right. I think this may get lost in all of the hype and hysteria and promoting of the vaccine and the PCR test as well, that neither of those products have received FDA approval. They only have the emergency use authorization. So this is not an approved drug. It's not an approved test. It has only been approved because of this emergency that has been declared that we've been living under for the past year now. I have to ask, Anna, what has the media coverage been like for you and your client? Has the media reached out to either of you at all, and have you guys been treated fairly? And what kind of impact, if any, do you think that the media coverage could have on this case?
Initially, we were reported very fairly and neutrally by the Las Cruces Sun-Times. And from there, that story got picked up by quite a few larger publications like The Hill, Telegraph. I don't know if we got into Washington Post or not. My research team and my volunteer team have sent me many links that we've already been picked up. We were not only picked up nationally with this coverage, but also internationally. A publication in the UK picked us up as well. So we're getting extensive coverage. I have been contacted by what I would call the mainstream media false news people. And I'm rather reluctant to even give an interview because I tried one for all of 9 minutes and it went disastrously and I had to terminate the interview. So we're really not interested in talking to the people who want to slant this in a way that fit into their dangerous narrative. I want to get the word out to people that they have the absolute right to refuse right now. Now we're going to face a big problem when these injectables are finally approved. That concerns me, but we have to fight the battle here first. And we hope that by doing this, it gives us some traction when we have to go fight the battle when they are approved medical products.
Now, Anna, this is groundbreaking. I can't stress the importance of, just from my perspective, my view, and limited legal understanding, that this case is a big deal. I can't stress that enough. But you also have some other very interesting and important cases in the works. You're extremely busy. These other cases that you're involved with right now, can you give us a quick kind of snapshot of what else is in the works?
Yes. We filed on December 21st, we filed a case against our Governor Lujan Grisham, that is challenging the state of public health emergency that was declared. We say that even if a public health emergency existed as of, let's say, March of 2020, it no longer exists. We have uncovered enough information, enough evidence to show that the death counts have been grossly inflated, that the PCR tests are meaningless, and that the myth of asymptomatic transmission is completely untrue. And that would, because the PCR testing and the asymptomatic transmission fallacy are driving a lot of the governor's responses, if we can knock those out and show the court that there is no public health emergency, that will, in effect, invalidate the restrictions that she's put on our entire state.
So it's I believe that it is starting to have an effect to where it's starting to unravel. And if the PCR test unravels, it could, the whole thing could unravel, essentially. Because then, like you said, if there is no emergency, then the whole agenda kind of goes out the window.
And the inserts in the PCR test say this test is not conclusive for COVID-19 because it can pick up Ebola and SARS and other coronaviruses. So even their package inserts basically give a disclaimer about their reliability.
Just like the masks have a disclaimer saying that they don't protect you from the coronavirus, but hey, you still got to wear 2 or 3 of them. Now, Anna, I know you cannot give legal advice on a platform like this, so without doing so, I'm sure that there are going to be a lot of other people out there who may potentially find themselves in a similar situation as your client is currently. What can people do? Like, what are their options? Can they hire you, or could I hire you if I need to? I mean, what are people's options out there?
I say stand your ground. We have to stand our ground. And this is why it's gotten into this position is we've had too many people capitulate to authority. This is an unbridled, tyrannical expression of authority that I have never seen in my lifetime. And my mother, who's close to 90, has never seen it in her lifetime. It's been shocking what's happened. And if we continue to let them steamroll over us, we're going to be in an even worse position. We've got to stand our ground. We have to say, this all stops when we say no more. And standing your ground for this particular, I think, dangerous product is something that will preserve your health. It will preserve, your family's stability, because there have been so many side effects. But it will also show them that we are not to be used as human guinea pigs. We have the right to choose what goes into our body. And so I say to people, even the COVID disease, yes, it does kill people, but it's not as bad as what we're seeing with the reactions. And I think that there are going to be far more adverse effects that show up years later in the form of autoimmune disorders, in the form of increased inflammation types of related diseases. And I think that we're looking at some pretty serious consequences down the road.
Well said, Anna, about people standing their ground. I think that you said that, encapsulated that perfectly. Because if we don't, basically it's just going to continue to get more. Next, it'll be you have to wear 5 masks and get how many other booster shots. And the vaccine manufacturers themselves have admitted on video that they don't really know if the vaccine will prevent you from getting the virus or transmitting the virus. And this is a virus, mind you, that has a 99+% survival rate. And yet we have this experimental vaccine that's just being rolled out and plunged into the arms of millions of people. There have been many adverse events that people have experienced. There has been a lot of people who have fallen, like they're no longer with us. And of course, they don't say that they can't determine if it was directly attributed to the injection or not. Of course, they try to stay away from that. But if you just do some searches in the news, the stories are out there. So it's very concerning. We don't know, like you said, what the effects are going to be down the road, a year or 2 or 5 down the road. How does it affect fertility? There's a lot of unanswered questions, and this is a very reckless approach at best, in my view. Anna Garner, thank you so much for your time and your dedication. Thank you,
Spiro. Thank you.
I would very much like to have you on again soon to discuss updates in this case as well as the other important pending case. So you mentioned earlier the website New Mexico Stands Up. Is there anywhere else that you would like people to go and visit? I will leave links for the websites that you mentioned here.
Thank you. And the proper name of it is NM for New Mexico, nmstandsup.org. And thank you for leaving the link so that people can visit our site and donate to help with this effort. Thank you.
Anna, any final points you'd like to include that we may have missed?
I just say stand your ground, please, everybody. We are stronger if we're united. We're stronger if we stand together.
Please be sure to share this interview around, as it is a very important case that could have a direct impact on many, many people. Information is power, and people need to be aware of what is at stake and what they can do about it. For ActivistPost.com, I'm Spiro. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, from now on, I'm gonna settle down. No more, I'm gonna let you down. You could have run well, left me, but you stuck around. That's why me decide to stop fuck around, baby. From now on, I'm gonna settle down. If you're having suicidal thoughts, try ignore that. There are people out there worse than you. Did you know that? The one I name reasoning. It's good when you and your friend will are reasoning. You can diffuse the feud by reasoning. Start out to no difference by reasoning.
Yeah, man, I eat that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for passing by. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell before you leave. Please and thank you.